Yes, you can write a song in one night, and you might have one person as an audience. Your mother will probably love it. Of course, it's been, analyzed of how to write a really effective song that is going to have the most emotional impact on the listener. It's like putting together a short story. It's like putting together a novel in 3 minutes. And for me, I believe in learning how something is done, what the rules are, and then you can choose to break the rules, and you know when you're breaking them, and you know why you're breaking them.
Right.
But to keep in mind the entire idea of songwriting. Now, all of this can change, and people write songs in a lot of different ways. I think I'm kind of a classic songwriter or something. I like a song that is memorable, that stays in your head.
Helps.
Yeah, I like that, because it becomes part of your life also. And that you listen to it over and over and over. Because I don't know, songs are, they come out. You find a song at a certain period in your life when you're going through a certain changes in your life, and that song becomes part of you during those changes. So you can always, when you hear that song after 10 or 20 years, you hear that song, it will bring you back to that time in your life. Well, regardless of how memorable songs are, I like songs that kind of stick in my brain, that have returning choruses, and that do have a beginning and a middle and an end, and have a story, and don't really meander through too many emotions, because it's very challenging to stay with one idea and one or two emotions.
Okay.
And because I find that is a problem with a lot of songs. They start out really good, very clear and very targeted. This song, I want to follow it. And then they start going off in all these different directions, and I totally lose the story, and I don't know what they're singing about, and I don't really care about it anymore. And I don't remember it. There's nothing memorable. This is my opinion about
So do you have a
songwriting.
process when you write a song? Like, do you walk around with a notebook, and so when inspiration strikes, you write down something quickly, or do you have a routine where you take your time, now it's songwriting time in the day, and you sit down and you close yourself down in a room or something? Do you have some kind of routine when it comes to songwriting, or?
Sure, it's all of the above.
All of the above, okay.
I like having spontaneous thoughts and writing them down. I don't necessarily go back to them all the time, but I think it's worth capturing them, because that is my muse that's talking to me. Like, I have an idea. Oh God, that's great. And just writing that down. If it's a really strong idea, I might write an entire song around that idea. So I do capture ideas. And
do you carry a notebook with you, or?
Yes, I do. And I'm always writing stuff down. And I have so many notebooks. And but then I do put aside a time that is for songwriting. And I had mentioned earlier, I have this cycle of writing, recording, and performing. So I do really, ideally, I like to take time off from performance and just focus on writing, because they're two different states of mind. They're really internal is songwriting. You have to go inside. I don't want any appointments. I don't want to look at the clock. I don't want to have to go to a gig. I don't want to have to promote a gig. I just want to write a song, and I want to let my mind open, and I want to just hang out, and keep that song with me. So this is ideal, ideally, but eventually, if you do have to also do multitasking. Also, I think you might have to be going to a gig that night or whatever, sure. and that's okay. But I do like having a certain space of time, some weeks, some months that I can just write. And I can play around with guitar, and I can stay up late, and I can just hang out and do what I want to do. And this opens up, a different part of your brain. So, and I do really have to work at it starting with a blank piece of paper. And maybe I'll get out all my notes that I've been taking on the metro and walking and on walks and start with some ideas from there. But I always, the best advice I've ever heard, and that is constantly repeated, is to write what you know. So, and then you'll end up with something really genuine. If you write from, your heart or whatever you want to say, you write what you know, you write what you've experienced. Even if you put it in the third person, I know that novelists will write about other characters, but they'll have themselves in the characters. I don't write in the third person. I'm just not really interested in that. I find it more powerful to write in the first person with the word I, the pronoun I, and you often as the other pronoun. And I'm talking to different people all the time. So, when I do sit down to write with a blank piece of paper, I come from the present moment of what I'm going through right at that moment often. I might use some nostalgic moments of what I've been going through, but in general, my albums reflect what I'm going through at that time in my life. I've written 3 albums in Europe, and I've been living in Europe since 2003, and I've recorded 3 albums with the same producer, Filippo de Laura, from Rome, and we recorded in Rome. It totally blew my mind to find my perfect producer in Italy when I'd been living in Nashville and had a wonderful couple of producers there. But Filippo really we really have a great collaboration. So for example, I have these 3 albums, and I from when I first came to Italy, and I just said, I just want to stay here and write an album. So I got an apartment outside of Rome, and I wrote an album. And I was going through a breakup, a romantic disillusionment is a great subject for songs and books and movies and poetry and everything. So I started out with that, and that album is called Slow Release. And it reflects my history of letting go of the States and letting go of a relationship in the States and letting go of a relationship in Italy and letting go and processing myself, letting myself go through this slow release. It doesn't happen overnight. And then the next album I recorded with Filippo was called Polishing Stones, and that's my 6th album. And Polishing Stones was about the next period in my maturity that I was spending time alone and polishing my stones alone up in my room, kind of preparing things, preparing myself and working with myself and on myself. And it's actually has a lot of hope in that album. It's a very positive album, I feel. My mother thinks all my albums are sad, but she's wrong. But Mom, my songs have every emotion in them. And if you really listen, there's a lot of very funny moments and comical moments, and sadness is a very beautiful emotion also.
And often people they confuse sadness with melancholy, which is two different things.
Yeah.
But very often it's like, the song might be a bit melancholical, but not necessarily sad. So.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I wrote a song about that, as a matter of fact, called Deep in Blue. It's on slow release, and it is about just let me be melancholy. Just let me have a little blues, and let me indulge myself. And it's kind of funny, and it's always kind of sexy and funny and cute and sad and emotional. And then the third album after Polishing Stones is my new album, called Silence is Rising. And this is just released in 2019 in the summer. I've released it. So it's very current, and it's written. All the songs were written in the last couple of years, and the last couple of years of my life, I've felt really good about being on my own, and so I've really enjoyed being, I guess, what you classify as single, but just being an independent person,
right,
and being a complete person. On your own. And whether you are connected, you're always connected with other people and having relationships, whatever level they're at. But now I became very comfortable with myself and my life in Europe, and I became very focused on my work, and as a songwriter, it's very meaningful to me, my work. But this album also took on it started out with a great enthusiasm of let's see, what am I going through? Oh, I want to maybe spend half the year in Berlin, and I want to travel, and I want to get out, and I want to do things, I want to meet people and talk to people. So I had all this sort of very inspired energy to go out, and so I started out with songs like this, kind of up tempo and fun and positive and some really really fun songs, and I'm an independent woman. And then in the middle of writing, I got kind of blindsided by, surprised by a health diagnosis I had. This kind of distracted me. and so I had to, I had a operation, and everything's really good, now. But
thank God.
Yeah, I'm recovering well, thank you. And I feel great, better than ever, actually. But this affected my writing in the middle of writing, and it kind of was a whoa, and then a oh, so you go down, you're like what, what, and then you come back up and you recover and recuperate. so the songs took on a deep meaning and sort of some questions of mortality and the meaning of life, and then they took on a great, thankfulness and celebration of life also. So this album actually, I feel, is a very well-rounded album. It's a complete cycle of all emotions, and it's all very genuine because it all happened to me. I was there, and but I know that a lot of people go through the same things that I go through, and this is what makes songwriting universal. And I always think of the listener when I'm writing a song, because I'm a listener too. To my own songs, I get bored. I have to entertain myself, and I listen to other people's songs, and I think, why am I listening to this song? How does it keep me? Why do I continue listening to it, or why do I want to turn the song off? I think I've gotten, I'm kind of at some height of my songwriting practice. Now, I always used to rewrite songs a lot, and I think rewriting is really important. Now they're coming out more written right on the paper, the final draft. I mean, I would hope so, because I've been doing this a long time. But I really think you have to learn this, how to do this before that happens. There can be, of course, there's some magical moments that songs come out really well to inexperienced writers, actually. But I think it's a mistake, or it's just not as much fun to just so you just write a song, you say, okay, that's it. That's great. I wrote a song tonight, and well, this is a great beginning of a potentially good song. And if you take this line and you put it here, isn't that kind of more interesting? Doesn't that start the song? What is your first line?
I guess if you don't do the work and go through the whole process and get the experience for years and years, you're just at the grace of chance.
Yeah,
very
that's
often.
yes.
And
yes.
so you might, as you said, maybe some unexperienced artist has a great song or a hit or two or whatever. But, but they don't necessarily know why.
Yes,
I think that's the difference.
Yeah, a great song that this guy, he only wrote one song or two songs. That Nature Boy.
Like literally only wrote one or two songs, or they only had one or two hits out of the songs?
No, the writer only. It was the only song he wrote. There are a few examples of that, but that's quite accurate, as you say. You sort of leave it to chance that maybe you just write one great song, and not write any other songs, or you work on it. I've always been this person who has to work on things, and I enjoy. Actually,
has coming to Rome changed your songwriting? Has it affected you as a songwriter and as a person?
As a person, yes. Not so much as a songwriter. I don't think. Not the way I write songs, because I'm not. Not the actual writing, maybe the sound or something. Because I really, the reason I came to Europe in 2001, I got this idea. I just was getting tired of Nashville. And,
how so?
Well, I made 4 albums there, and it was just like, am I just going to keep on doing this? For myself, and maybe for a lot of artists, I don't know. We like change. You know, a lot of people just like change, and I think I get bored easily.
Okay.
And I was kind of a fish out of water there. A lot of people were saying, "What are you doing in Nashville? Why are you in Nashville?" They just look at me and ask me, "Why are you? You don't seem like a Nashville type," you know. And I wasn't into country music.
Okay.
But I was listening to country music. I learned a lot about country music, but I was writing my own songs.
So it was expected that you are in the genre of country
Country,
music.
yeah. I know. I always forget when I say, "Oh, I lived in Nashville," and then they say, "Oh, so you're a country music singer." I'm like,
Nope.
no, I'm not actually, because there are a lot of different kinds of musicians in Nashville. The musicians come. I was mostly just hanging out with musicians. My boyfriend was a drummer. I came there with him from New Mexico, and a lot of different backgrounds to these musicians. You know, a lot of rock players and jazz players and soul players. A lot of soul players, sort of blue-eyed soul from the South. Were moving to Nashville, and a lot of L.A. players were moving to Nashville. L.A. and New York players were moving to Nashville in the 90s. Because there were maybe some older players who had families and were tired of L.A. and a lot of people were leaving L.A. in the 90s. Just the pollution and the crowds and traffic and everything was impossible living there unless you had tons of money. But and to raise a family and all. Nashville was a small town, and really quite a small city. It's changed a lot now, but it was just a small town. And so coming there, it was a great mix of people. Not so many people who were born in Nashville. It was a real sort of international mix. Or,
like Rome in a way.
Yeah.
Not many native Romans left.
Yeah. That's happening everywhere. It's getting a lot mixed in a lot of places. But I don't know how. Well, Nashville, I haven't been back in a long time. But I moved there in like '88, I think, and that was before Garth Brooks. And a lot of people in Europe haven't heard of Garth Brooks, but he just put country music over the top.
I'm all on my roots.
Oh, good, very good. Garth Brooks put country music on the pop charts, and you know, L.A. and New York were freaking out, like, what do you mean country music's on the pop charts? And he brought country music into the arenas, and he was making light shows and smoke bombs and bringing in a young audience into country music. And then Nashville exploded in the 90s, but we were already there before Garth Brooks. As a matter of fact, I saw Garth Brooks at a Songwriter show, you know, one of those... he just got up there alone, and he was on the list of 10 other songwriters.
So basically, one day you got fed up of being around there, or you needed a change, let's say it like that.
Yeah, it was a real commercial town, and it was I was just making 4 CDs and giving them away to try to get a record deal or something. This is what everybody wanted, was a record deal, to be signed by a record company. Right. And there were a few pretty cool independent labels there. Also, Gary Talent had a label, working with a label there, and but the big business there was country music. They were signing country artists. Every once in a while, they'd sign sort of a different kind of rock artist or something, but it was very commercial oriented, and kind of hit oriented, and I get tired. I mean, you just work so hard and doing all this self-promotion and booking myself and putting out these albums, and I just got tired. And then I came to Europe on a tourist visit with my mother.
Okay.
And I went to Amsterdam, and I said, damn, this is really cool. I think I'll bring my music here. And I'm inspired suddenly to bring my music here and to perform here and to live here. and 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 then I checked out the musicians. I thought I want to play with the players in Europe who don't play. None of them play with a American singer-songwriter, and they don't listen to American singer-songwriters really. They listen to American musicians, but I wanted a really different influence in my music, and it was just inspiring to me. I thought, oh God, look at this bass player, this wild bass player, who's somewhere in between jazz and funk, and then these Italian players and people playing a lot of Brazilian influence, especially in Italy. It's like all the players had been in a Brazilian band or something, and I just felt like I was suddenly in the world. I felt more part of the world than in Nashville. It was so isolated and insulated. And the States is incredibly isolated and insulated. Unless you go to New York. That's the only place where you can hear international music, I think.
And so, how is it that you didn't end up in the Netherlands, but in Italy instead?
Italy was just so much more fun, and it was so sensuous and romantic and delicious. You know, of course, the climate and the food and the aesthetics and the beauty.
So you came also through Italy as part of the trip with your mom, traveling through Europe?
No, we just went to the Netherlands.
Okay.
And then I came back, and I went to England with my family too, and then I decided to explore, and I got agents right away. I mean, all these doors opened for me in Europe that never opened for me in the States or Nashville. I got an agent, I got a record company. They were so nice, and they were small, but agents were booking me tours, European agents booking me tours, and I got an agent in Italy, and I toured in Italy. And I was just really inspired. I think on a personal level, I found it inspiring. Yes, it affected my songwriting, not the way that I wrote the songs, but I just had a lot to write about because there's a lot going on, and in general, Europe is very romantic because it's old, you know, and it has a lot of history. I love always studying history, and it just has a lot in the earth and in the trees and in the people and in the blood and in the food, and there are a lot of stories here in Europe, I think.
So then you arrived in Rome and you started living here, and you've been living here ever since, right?
Yes, I have.
Around in the Rome area. And so one thing I always get asked, but also ask myself sometimes, is as an artist, as a musician, how do you survive? How do you make money? How do you sustain that? That's the $1,000,000 question that everybody has their own way, I suppose. Yeah. Because now we live in very strange times. Like everything is supposed to be free. Like music, you can just stream it, and that's that. There's less value, or people seem to value physical objects less. So the value of
tangible,
some disc, or you know, something that you're selling, a CD, all these things seem to be vanishing. Even though there are some retro movements, and people start pressing the kind of LPs again, and it's kind of more of an exotic thing, I suppose, or niche. So how does somebody sustain such an art form?
I don't think they do financially, and I'm afraid that the young players coming up will not make much money. It changed really rapidly. Touring never used to be a way to make money. It used to be a way to promote your product. Uh, so now people find touring to be a source of income, and also it's the place where you sell something tangible. You know, whether you put your files on some USB stick or you write on a piece of paper some code number that an audience can buy and then go to their house and put in the code and get your files.
Sounds strange saying it out loud, doesn't it?
Or they'll buy a CD.
Right.
And people in Europe still buy CDs, actually, because they still have CD players. And there is a little different mentality here that I really appreciate in general. And the financial story is really sad. I think it's a reflection of our times. And it's really happened so quickly. It's so shocking. It's really traumatic, actually. At the same time, I put out my first album in Europe. I put out like in 2008 or 2009 maybe. And that was right when the world financial market collapsed. And record companies started closing, distributors started closing, record stores started closing. I'm sitting there with this beautiful new album, I thought, well, I guess I'll just go play at some little club somewhere, not looking for any record deals around here. But it all happened at the same time, and then the internet came up, after 2000, by 2005. At the same time, the world financial crisis happened. So music just got slammed in between everything, and it was really traumatic, because also a lot of venues started closing, and they couldn't support keeping them open. A lot of musicians went into depression, really. A lot of friends of mine became seriously depressed, clinically depressed. Calling me for work, musicians, drummers, guitar players, bass players, anyone wanted to carry my equipment for me, to come with me. Please take us with you. Because they were aging, and they had no other. They'd always played gigs and gotten paid. And they were doing that, and you could sort of support a family, though a lot of musicians quit music when they took on a family, which, has its balances. You have to balance that. But of course, in Nashville, so many great players were supporting their families with music. And I think this is impossible to do now. But now what you have to do to make a living in music is to diversify and to do everything you can. You have to write songs. You have to try to get them onto movie or television soundtracks, which all the payments have
royalties
bottomed, have gone down.
Really?
Unbelievable. You used to be able to have maybe a minute of music on a TV show, and you get like $15,000. Now you're lucky if you get 1,000. I mean, who made these rules? I don't know, but it's been really a traumatic change, and this is why a lot of friends have gone into depression. So now you have to really diversify. You have to be a producer, a songwriter. You have to sing on a lot of projects. You have to make a lot of projects. You have to teach. You have to teach all of these things. You have to teach how to record a song. You have to teach how to play drums. You have to teach anything you can think of. and ask people for money.
Right. Most musicians I know, they are teachers on the side. Yeah, musical teachers, definitely.
Yes, and I think, I mean, that used to be looked down upon, actually. If you can't do it, then you teach it.
Right.
So if you can't be a musician, then you become a teacher. I think it's very important to teach other, especially younger people, to teach other people your secrets, to carry on. And yeah, I think teaching is important. I know a lot of teachers would probably rather be performing and playing. This is what was interesting about Berklee College of Music in Boston, where I grew up, and I studied there privately as a teenager. My mother found this school. It was just a little house in the 70s, and I was a teenager, and just she saw that I was interested in music, and yeah, you were asking if my parents were supportive. She said, okay, to keep you occupied and off the street, we're going to find you a guitar teacher, okay? So she found this school. Yeah, I think she went to the conservatory first. They said, no, we don't teach guitar here. No, we just teach violin. So she found this new jazz school and found this really great teacher who was actually a student also. But he was the first person who really validated that I had a different style and I had something to say on guitar. When he saw what I was doing on guitar, what I've been teaching myself, he's like, what are you doing? What are all those chords? And then he taught me all my jazz chords. Sorry, how did I get into that?
Teaching,
yeah,
surviving as a musician.
Yes, surviving as a musician. And yes, teaching is important. Yeah, he was really meaningful to me back then, but it was always kind of looked down upon if you had a day job and you couldn't support yourself with music, then you weren't a real musician. But then you moved to a place like Nashville or New York or Los Angeles or a music center where they had music business, where all the biggest and best players and singers and songwriters went. Then you come from a small town and you go to a place like that, everybody is also playing for free in this place because there are so many musicians. Nobody's going to get paid, and the clubs
is crazy.
Yeah, and the clubs are going to take advantage. And sure, you can showcase here tonight, and you can play for the door if you want to charge your friends money at the door.
Or sometimes you have to pay.
Yes. Well, the way they started that in New York like 20 years ago was, okay, here's 50 tickets you have to sell, and you got to sell them to your friends. So that's how you pay to play. That's how it started, I think. But when you go to a place like that, and there is this high level, the stakes are really high. And you're used to being a hero in your small town, and then you go to a real place where the real players are. It's really intimidating. A lot of people go home, but it's not looked down upon. You to have a day job. Of course, you have to have a day job, and it's kind of come to that now. It's best to have something that you have some security with, and you can relax and not worry about your next month's rent.
Right.
So it's better because it's very difficult to relax and write a song when you know that you got to be you don't have any money. This is really hard. So. And to find some value in your day job. I mean, to enjoy your day job, to find a job that you value, and they value you. And it's great if it's flexible hours. You can do some work at home or something. You can take some time off for writing, or for traveling and playing. But to find something that you're participating in the community, and and it's a day job, and you're getting paid, but to to not look down on yourself for, oh, I'm not a good enough musician, I can't make a living as a musician, so I have to be a waitress. Enjoy being a waitress. You're doing a great thing for people, and you got to really like the restaurant and like the food that you're serving.
Right.
So find some value in the day job. But it's always been a problem for an artist to to be supported by the society, and the society used to make room for artists. Europe was especially has been, and some places still are in Europe, supporting artists and subsidizing programs, artistic programs that are built into the society's cultural fabric.
I think the Netherlands invests a lot of money in their artists, as I understand.
They always have. They used to more. You definitely used to be able to get grants a lot.
Maybe
and feel valued, I mean, it makes an artist feel like, God, I'm important. I'm not just a kind of throwaway, or I don't have to beg for money on the streets, or I don't have to beg at clubs for gigs, or I'm actually valued. I'm recognized for being a part of this society, an important part, and some government department is actually going to give me a little money to just take the edge off, to at least maybe pay my rent. France has a great history of supporting artists, and the Netherlands and Germany. Those are the ones I know personally, but
and you're there a lot, right? As I understand, in Germany at the moment.
Germany,
yes.
Yeah. I started working in Germany around 2011, and I'm just really thankful to be able to work there. It's really special how they manage their cultural programs there. I just really appreciate the care that they take for the audience and for the venue and for the performers. And they make it a comfortable situation for everyone, the live performances. They make it nice for people, and they treat people well. And then everyone's happy at the end, and then they want to do it again.
Incredible, isn't it?
It's just like incredible concept. And every time I do a tour there and do gigs there, I'm just blown away, really, by the audiences. There's something that is in the German mentality that has always been there. Of they listen very well, and they have an interest in other cultures also. They just have a curiosity and interest, and they seem to have this ability to listen. I don't know where it comes from or why it's there, but not all cultures have that.
Well, I get it a lot here in Italy, to be honest. When I play, it's usually fighting against the wall. You have to kind of, in my experience anyway, probably it's a bit different. Depends on the venues where you play, of course.
Yep.
I mean, if you play in a pub, of course, you expect it's going to be loud. Then you really have to fight for the attention, but it's a whole different story. But yeah.
Yeah, that's okay sometimes. I mean, it's really fun to play in a lively place where you have to work to get someone's attention.
And if you get their attention, actually, it's great, because then there's
yes.
really a connection, and the fun is really a lot of fun.
Yes,
It's really nice, yeah.
But that becomes kind of an entertainment thing. It's like you're there to entertain them.
Right.
Because they're drinking and laughing and talking and eating and smoking.
Probably very difficult for a singer-songwriter environment like that.
Well, for lyric-based.
Right, exactly.
When, and of course I'm singing in English, and I am going to finally, I think I should print some lyrics and translate them more. And but there are some wonderful Italian audiences, and they are curious about, the lyrics. But I listen to a lot of music that I don't understand the language. I listen to a lot of Brazilian music. I don't speak Portuguese. I love Brazilian music. I listen to African music. I don't know what they're talking about. So I always do keep in mind the listener, and I feel my songs are interesting musically, and they have rhythms and swings and interesting harmonies and memorable melodies, and the albums have interesting instrumentation, and I'm playing with a really interesting guitar player, electric guitar player, who lives in Berlin, who is German, and he's a electronics wizard, and so he makes guitars do things that guitarists don't understand when they listen to him. How's he doing that? And so he creates these beautiful atmospheric atmospheres, suggestive atmospheres that are emotional for my songs, actually. So, I always am interested in the music as a guitar player and as a musician first. And I play different voicings. I've always played different chords and voicings, poly chords. They have more harmonies and overlaid, interwoven than standard chords, I guess. And the rhythms, I'm always kind of experimenting with rhythm, and the music I listen to is really kind of different too. But I love all different kinds of music.
So I'm sure it reflects in your work as of course all the experiences that you have been taken in and all the countries you've been in.
Yeah.
So speaking of work, where can people find your latest album? Where do they have to go to listen to it? Where can they purchase it? Where can they buy it?
Thank you for asking. It's very easy to find. Of course, it's on the internet.
Okay.
And everything's on the internet. So you can find it in streaming. It's on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. If you're a member of Spotify, of course. Somehow my music has ended up on a lot of these platforms without my knowledge. I don't know how that happens.
Is it good or bad?
I'm suspicious. I don't know.
Who
Somebody
put them there?
took it and put it there. It ended up there somehow. But we did make a decision, actually. I'm with a German record company, and he has been violently opposed to Spotify and streaming services. He also put out my last album, Polishing Stones. But my new album, The Silence is Rising, is... I said, well, are you using streaming this time? He says, yes, I am. I have to. I just can't avoid it anymore. So it's streamable on Spotify, and that's okay. I just need to get the music out. But I think the audience should be educated of how this really works. I heard someone, even just a friend of mine, very intelligent people say, well, the artists, they get, some sense, it doesn't sound like much, but they get some sense, right? Like 10 cents a shot, I'm like, 10 cents? I wish.
I guess it starts with a 0.00
yes.
or something like that.
Yes,
right?
it's 0.000.
10.
1. Come on,
Right.
educate yourself of where the music comes from and how it gets there, and where it ends up. So you might be surprised. You'll learn something. So my music's very available, and there's a tangible beautiful physical copy in my purse that you can buy right away today. Of course, it's you can order it from my very nice German record company, Tassel Records. Tassel, T-A-S-A-L, is an acronym, and it stands for Take a Seat and Listen.
Wow, that is nice.
I love the name of my record company. Sit down and shut up. What would that an acronym be? Anyways, it's all over. I don't know. You can buy it on iTunes and Amazon. You just have to know my name, I guess, to come across my name, Elisabeth Cutler. Yeah, I have a nice website, and yeah, music is, it is at an interesting time now, financially, because it's the time of the independent artist, and
Right.
and record companies are in a different position now. So the artist apparently does have direct control of their songs and their music. They can get it directly to the audience, and they don't need to wait around for a record deal. They don't need to wait for a record company. They can get it right out directly through the internet, whatever way you want to get it to people. But this has caused quite a mayhem on the internet. It's kind of messy looking for things, and
It's crowded, isn't it?
It's really. Yeah, people are so prolific now. They just throw things up there. Throw it up there and see if it sticks. Throw it on the wall and see if it sticks.
It's a good approach sometimes to try these things, but we're just so many people now, and the technology is so accessible. I suppose back then in the 70s, I suppose probably everybody knew every artist by the first, last name, and the street they live on, because I remember an interview with Springsteen again, to bring him up again. And he said that there were just not so many rock and rollers back then, for example. It's just...
No.
Was a different
No,
time.
it wasn't so available to learn how to play guitar.
Now everybody has a band, everybody plays an instrument, everybody can share easily, so you just record something. The technology is getting better, so actually it sounds kind of nicer. If you know how to do it, it sounds even good.
Yeah.
It's very accessible, very cheap.
Yeah.
And so everybody becomes a production company, becomes a distributor, becomes everything.
Yeah.
So it's very crowded out there on the internet.
Yeah, I actually just been given a great compliment. This new album of mine is... It might be the last time I can really make an album like this, because people aren't really making albums like this anymore. We did go into a studio in Rome with a drummer and a bass player, and we recorded them live. I recorded my guitar and vocal. They played from my guitar, and I had a scratch vocal on it. But I had a great compliment recently from an older jazz player who just said, the sound of your album is so incredible. It stands out so much. You really have to go to the famous people to hear this sound. And this is a great compliment. I always am interested what my peers think, how they feel about my songs and my compositions, and the sound of the CD. My producer Filippo De Laura just he just got a great sound in the studio in Rome, in Delta Top Studios. And Andy Bartolucci is the drummer, and he's a great drummer in Rome, and he was first take on every song.
Wow, okay.
He really just nailed it. And what a sound. What a tight, nice, relaxed, cool, original sound. And then one of the greatest bass players in Italy lives in Rome, Marco Siniscalco. So he did a few songs on bass, and one. I guess we just have one with acoustic bass, I think, and then our secret weapon from Berlin, Leander Reininghaus, who is my duo partner, the electric guitar player, who just has incredible sounds on this album. I mean, all the credits are all written. I have a nice booklet and everything.
Okay.
That I should show on video or something. And if you look at all the you listen to the song, you say, wow, who's playing keyboards, who's playing violin, who's playing all this stuff? And you look and there's like 3 or 4 musicians listed, you know. My producer, Filippo, is a great musician, and he plays every instrument, actually, especially if it has strings or is a percussive instrument. So he put strings. He learned how to bow an instrument, and he has some very different ethnic. I don't know what are they called. They're called ethnic instruments. Instruments from around the world with strings on them, and he's playing anything around the house with a string. I don't know, and practicing his bowing. So he has some very unique sounds of, and people think they're cellos or violins, but actually people who know think that is not exactly a cello. So very original sounds, I think, Filippo has. So it's a really good sounding album. And it's just kind of a heartbreak sometimes when since I've released it. It's getting great reviews from really respectful journalists, and this means something to me because I know that they listen to a lot of CDs, and mine stands out. And they're German journalists, and they have opinions, and they're hard, they're tough, you know, and they're just not nice just to be nice, you know, and I believe them, and I appreciate them a lot. So it's just heartbreaking to put out a beautiful CD that I feel are really interesting songs. And they're universal songs. They're not just about me. They do connect with other people's universes. At this day and age, putting out a really beautiful piece of work. The idea is that it doesn't matter how good you are these days. It's just success is based on something else now. It's based on I don't know how many visualizations you get. How do you get visualizations? You put something up that is going to probably shock somebody. Something that is really maybe never been seen in that way. I don't know, people, human nature is attracted to something shocking that they can be amazed by, something either violent or sexual. This is going to get a lot of visualizations, and this is going to get a lot of likes. And I don't know, is success based on that now? I don't know. There are some. I don't know.
But wasn't it always there in a certain way, and maybe it just seems more prominent now because of social media? And so, of course, since these things get shared more and get more likes, as you say, they may seem to pop up more often. Because because I suppose there's always going to be people who like a good, well-written song. Because one thing, as you said before, is entertainment. And it's all the colorful, exploding stuff. And the other thing is something more deep, more meaningful. I think people always need that. Otherwise, religion wouldn't still be so successful as well, you know?
Yeah. Is it successful
Well,
still?
it's on the decline probably, but it's still many cultures, I suppose.
People are
very
looking for
important.
spiritual
They
guidance.
still need meaning. They still need
Yeah.
all these things. The human
Yeah.
basic needs, they are still there.
Yes, that's interesting. That human nature has always been attracted to, I don't know, shock and violence. It used to have more impact. I mean, since the television was invented. I think Vietnam was the first war to be televised. It's famous for that, at least. And for people to see, I mean, it used to be illegal to show dead people on TV, real dead people on TV.
Right.
But now, people have become so jaded. I mean, if you hit someone over the head all day long with these images, they become numb. Even out of just self-protection, like, that's not really a dead person. Or on the front page of a newspaper, is this a dead person? No, this is fake. It's a movie. I don't know. And the movies have also been quite violent. I don't know. Though the old movies, you could kind of tell the difference between reality and didn't really look so real.
Today's everything's so realistic.
It's very
also
realistic.
Video games,
Yeah.
everything is very, very realistic now.
Yes, it is. So you do become numb to this. So the
Right.
stakes keep on going up,
That's
higher
true.
and higher.
That's true.
So it has to be even more shocking. I mean, I remember 25 years ago in New York, whoever shocked the most, it became very shocking on stage. You had to shock the most. There's always been some shock, but it used to be a bit more genuine. It wasn't like strategically planned to let's shock the audience and get a reaction and then we'll be more successful.
Right.
No, it was like, I think Lenny Bruce was a great comic who was really speaking from his experience and from his feelings, and saying some pretty shocking things that people didn't want to hear. So he was arrested. He spent a lot of time in jail.
What?
Lenny Bruce in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s. Yeah. So now, I mean, just I don't know, the point of reference keeps on changing. And now that we have these public figures who we've always been taught to look up to, who are saying things that are actually classified as vulgar, and I don't know, they're classified as rude or impolite or vulgar, or just not respectful way to address an audience, and not a respectful way to talk about other people. This is now becoming normal. So everyone thinks they can do it. So for me, to put out just a simple beauty, I'm trying to make the world a more beautiful place just by putting out some beautiful music.
Right.
This is my contribution to the world. When I think, what am I doing? What am I doing writing all these little songs? There's always this little critic going, what are you doing? This is not important. You should be doing something important. You should go make a bunch of money somewhere, and do something important and have something to show for it. But that's all I can do, is just try to make a quiet place that someone can go in their home and actually listen, and it could be part of their life, and I have an album that could be played in someone's home that's not going to shock them out of their house or rudely awaken them in the morning. It's an album. My music can be played all different times of day, in different situations. and to draw people in, and you know, I can see some people think, oh, is she going to be too loud or shocking or something? You know, I put on an album, and then slowly they start, oh, could you turn that up? Oh, that sounds nice. You know, oh, I can let her into my private world, because it's very private being in someone's house. That's what television is about. Actually, it started out as a very, oh, we're going to be in people's living rooms. My God, you know, we have to be careful, you know, of what we say, or they're going to turn us off. You know, they have the power to turn us on and off. So if you want to be, you know, part of someone's life, I think that's what I value. If I can bring a musician into my world and into my home and listen to them, this means a lot to me. They're part of my life, and they'll be part of my this period of my life. I mean, I get obsessed with some artists. Like, I just put on like Keith Jarrett for a week. You know, it's Keith Jarrett week. I'm listening to Keith Jarrett,
Okay.
and he's always safe. Well, he's not always safe. He does go off sometimes, but yeah, he's quite respectful to the listener, and he is an artist that really demands that the listener be respectful to him. He would stop playing in concert and walk off stage if someone was coughing or sneezing in the audience. Yeah,
wow.
He's famous for this.
Huh.
But this is a exchange, you know. The audience has to play their part, you know.
I think people still need that kind of music and this kind of style and the calm and the silence and something they can focus on and really have to put their attention on to really listen to the music. Otherwise, for example, mindfulness wouldn't be exploding and booming right now as it is, and meditation and you know, all these things. So people have a need for that.
Yes. Oh, I have this great idea, actually,
okay. Yes.
that I thought I would talk about, and this reminds me of it. Of you said mindfulness, that
Yes.
people are looking for meditation, or they need it more than ever today, I think, because the world has become very loud. Technology can be very loud and invasive. So I know this doctor in Switzerland, and he's developed a software application that is for healing, and it's for understanding yourself better. And he studies the nervous system and the heart, and he studies how stress affects us and how we respond to stress or to quiet, and how to find our balance in between the two nervous systems. It's the automatic nervous system, and there's the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, and that's the resting nervous system when you're resting, and the active nervous system when you're active. So finding the balance between these two. And he teaches a meditative breath. And so you're doing this very nice deep breathing, deep full breathing, and trying to quiet yourself and physiologically, psychologically and physically, finding this nice quiet place. And then he monitors your body signals, your heart rate and your pulse rate, with a digital monitor you can put on your finger. You know, I mean, they used to do. You can do an EKG too, of them monitoring your heart rate and your pulse rate. So he takes this data into a computer. So you have this digital monitor, going into a computer and it's recording all this data, your body rhythm data, and then he for fun and for special effects, he attaches this data to musical instruments.
Okay.
And he's chosen symphonic instruments. And so you come out with this rather complex and beautiful and original heart symphony.
Wow.
Yes, and then the idea, he gives you the recording, and the idea is to listen to the recording, and it will calm you down. And of course, when you made the recording, you're doing this very nice, even, slow, deep breathing, and so the idea is that you would listen to your heart symphony and return to this deep, slow breathing. And you can bring it with you. You can have it on your earbuds, if you're stuck in traffic or something. But of course, I want to...
It connects to your own rhythm, basically.
Yes. So everyone's is unique.
But do you need do you have to go physically to Switzerland, or is there an app for that you have you buy a device and you can do it at home, or
there is an app, a great website. It's called Herzklang because it's in
okay, let me write this down.
In Switzerland, and also Germany is also helping develop it. But Herz is heart, of course, and Klang is sound, so it's heart sound. And it's called Herzklang Services. If you Google Herzklang, I think a lot of things come up, but theirs is one of the first one that comes up. Herzklang Services. So it is. They have a professional version and a home version right now, and they are developing and preparing to launch a mobile application.
Okay.
So because like a lot of the telephones, especially the iPhones, I guess they have a digital monitor that you put your finger in, right, for fingerprint ID, I think.
Right. So
that will be usable for this recording your heart rhythm data.
All right.
Yeah. So of course I took my heart symphony and wrote a song around it, and it became the title of my new album. Is Silence is Rising. So this is a beautiful application of technology. Actually, it's not that technology is such a bad thing.
It always depends how you use it.
Yeah,
like with everything in life.
Yeah.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have Elisabeth Cutler presenting her new album, Silence is Rising.
The song's called In My Wildest Dreams. All the things I thought were true have broken down like me and you. Every time I think I'm fine, something comes along that reminds me of my wildest dreams. Maybe I'm living the life I wanted. The road I've chosen is long and lonely. There's a place I can't find, but I've been there before in my mind and in my wildest dreams. I'm taking names. Don't ask me to explain my wildest dreams. In between the heart and mind, and there's a river deep and wide, and those who have a hungry soul are bound to drift away from home. In my wildest dreams. Restless for change, I know nothing stays the same. I'm headed down a new highway in my wildest dreams. Wildest dreams. Well, it's a significant part of my life. Table for one. Table for one, I'll sit at the bar. I'll go to a show and get a seat up front alone. Why would I give up this perfect prison, sentenced to solitude with the illusion of freedom? In the morning I'll forget, my dreams evaporate, my horoscope has no hope, promises go up in smoke. It's easy to say I'm okay, but some days the nights are too silent, too quiet. Butterflies and paper tigers, fly away lovers, no troubles, no tears, no unknown fears, no kisses to miss, no sad embrace, no wall face. Could this be? Would this be happiness? Come walk with me tonight. The stars are shining bright. If one was to fall, what would you wish for? There's heroes and fools like me and you. 1 + 1 is 2 hearts falling in love, too good to pass up. Butterflies and paper tigers, fly away lovers, no troubles, no tears, no unknown fears, no kisses to miss, no warm embrace, no sad face. Could this be, or would this be happiness? Happiness. Happiness. Table for one, I'll be at the bar. That's great. Okay, we did it.
Yes.
Yes. Now I'll be curious to see it.